Anime from spring 2025 will begin to air, and with that comes a list of fresh and returning anime to choose to watch. We'll be taking a glance to determine first impressions for not only the potential quality of the shows, but also whether or not we'll be watching it in the first place. I don't do movies, specials, onas, or ovas, so we won't be rating or discussing the Jujutsu Kaisen movie, Konosuba special, or Lycra's Recoil and Moonrise onas. A solid chunk of the anime is just going straight into skip. And if everyone's being honest, you're doing the exact same. Most people tune in season to season and watch whatever has the most hype on social media or pops up in the popular section of whatever streaming service they're using. They don't want to waste their precious free time slogging through anime that aren't even that great. Even for seasonal andies, there's just too many things to watch, so I have a couple of reasons I'll skip something. Little community interest, doesn't pique my curiosity, or is a continuation of anime I've not seen previous seasons of. This season that'd be something like a horror and is indecipherable season 2, or if I have seen it, I can't be convinced to pick them up again. That'd be Black Butler, and I've been killing slimes for 300 years and maxed out my level. Lastly, there's just themes and genres I don't like, and for many of these skips, for me they happen to be harem, otome, ecchi, or idol anime. With the most egregious anime being the Shuenji family children, please put them on Takamine-san and Kakushite Makina-san.
Don't let your thoughts win. Don't let your gooner thoughts win, dog.
And then there's My Hero Academia Vigilantes, which I want to have absolutely nothing to do with after suffering through multiple seasons of the parent story. If there's something I skipped over that you have a convincing reason why I shouldn't, let me know in the comments below. Now, a quick tier list category explainer. Bangers, I expect the most from these anime. Solid is for anime that might hold my attention throughout their airing and does its best to not undermine the concept or plot. Dark Horse is for anime that from first impressions fit my taste and I want to see their story succeed despite not being the most popular show before airing. Something to Prove is for shows that I question how good the anime can be, but I'm willing to give it the chance to prove itself. Average isn't the best or worst. And Bad is anime that if I end up watching I regret since they're grueling to complete and lack redeemable qualities to the point I could even outright drop it. Now the first anime on the list to go over is Sword of the Demon Hunter. It doesn't appear to be anything out of the ordinary synopsis wise. A very standard historical anime following a swordsman traveling around Japan due to an elusive demon. What drew me in is the question of is what I'm fighting for correct? And is it worth it to spend so many years on the hunt for a demon? The opinion I had in my first impressions stream to now actually changed due to the most recent preview just being more captivating. It sold the animation quality better in my opinion, which seems like others disagree with due to Yokohama Animation Laboratory's involvement. I don't really have that same apprehension towards them, with their most recent thing I've seen, The Witch and the Beast, being a step up from the previous trash they've worked on. I had Sword of the Demon Hunter as my first dark horse. We have Summer Pockets, which seems to fall in the mold of an insulated story during the summertime where we see the growth of a small cast. The best version of this is something like Onohana, while the worst version is Waiting in the Summer. I think this will be a fine story, but I doubt the ceiling of it with it being a slice of life. I'll give it a watch, but I'm expecting Summer Pockets to be average. I've been feeling a little burnt by the recent Gundam anime, The Witch from Mercury, so I'm skeptical to give Guix the same level of cheerability I might have done in the past. This isn't my preferred animation style that it does with the characters, it's kinda just weird and doesn't feel as human to me. But then you look at the Gundam fight scenes and you have a return to a much more classical Gundam feel. Guix on first impression doesn't give me that same sense of excitement like Iron-Blooded Orphans or Unicorn, where there's this sense of despair from inequalities or these planetary conflicts that result in billions of deaths. These smaller scale Gundam anime haven't been compelling to me so far, but I'm willing to give this most recent a chance to prove something. The Brilliant Healer's New Life in the Shadows is part of a widespread infection of the fantasy genre where the main character gets treated like trash and kicked from the party they're in at the start of the anime, and then amazingly, their unappreciated talents are what allows them to find success. As unlikely as it is for this trope to produce something better than a 6, I'm willing to give it a watch. Combining all this with the soft harem elements, it's safe to say the Brilliant Healer's New Life in the Shadows will be a bad anime. With Go-Go Loser Ranger Season 2, we have something I'm hopeful for. If you're unfamiliar, it's pretty much about hero-villain dynamics and how heroes may not be as heroic as one may be led to believe. Sometimes it's the villains that are doing not necessarily heroics, but something that you can definitely sympathize with. The first season was much better than I expected as a hater of the superhero genre. Hopefully we see them expanding upon our main guy that's stuck in the hero society and somehow be able to topple it or make some revolutionary changes. With that, Go-Go Loser Loser Ranger Season 2 will be going into something approved, since I still question the lengths it'll go to critique the superhero genre. I'm very excited for another season of Bye Bye Earth. From the aesthetic to Belle and Adonis's introspection leading to what seems to be a clash of ideals between them, what can I say? I'm a fan. Despite my usual interests, this anime has been a rare opportunity for me to enjoy the involvement of music in a show, and I get the Kevin Pickin hype. Probably the worst thing about it for most viewers is that it can be confusing at times, and has been slow to explain important concepts, so at least for others' sake, I'd like to see the second season do a better job with that. And then my biggest takeaway is that I value fantasy anime higher when they don't illegitimize their female characters. Bye Bye Earth Season 2 is going to be my first solid. There were some other detective anime this season that during my first impression stream were just boring and lacked an engaging flair to them. Your Forma was different. Diving into the memories of others to solve crimes is compelling, and the idea of the emotions and rationales hidden within those memories potentially corrupting our main character is enough to sell me on this anime. If you've watched the Netflix special Altered Carbon, this seems to be in that same vein. I'll put Your Forma into Dark Horse. There's a lot of opportunity here with the sci-fi genre, but sci-fi does have the issue of being difficult to successfully pull off, which a lot of the time just comes down to fleshed out concepts. Now let's talk about Witch Watch. This appears to be if you took the strength of concept from Kiki's Delivery Service or Flying Witch and then tried to make a comedy from it. Witch Watch is definitely a funny name to try and say multiple times fast, but I can't speak to the anime itself actually being funny just yet. I'm not too big a fan of wacky klutzy comedy, which seems to be the direction this anime takes based on the trailers, so for me I'm expecting this to be average. When I look at an anime like from old Country Bumpkin and Master Swordsman, you can tell it's going to take this experienced male lead and drip feed their past through flashbacks that are meant to make you have some sort of investment in them. I'm not a fan of that sort of thing, and when you pair it with a harem of characters fawning over them as they're either ignorant to the fact or aloof, I can only foresee a bad anime. Thanks once again to Mal for not properly tagging it as such, and shame on studios and producers for greenlighting a relatively unknown source material adaptation for cheap fantasy clicks. Lazarus at face value seems to have some good stuff going for it, and is one of the few sci-fi that have grabbed my attention fully in spring. The concept of a peaceful and prosperous era in Earth's history due to a cure-all drug that ends up collapsing down around humanity, and yet a sliver of hope still remains, is a gripping introduction to the story. The trailers help sell that, with initially being upbeat and the apparent success of society, but descends into fear and rapidly increasing pace. Lazarus being an original anime usually would make me much more hesitant to accept it. However, Mappa did just do a great job with Zenshu, so here's my one free original anime pass. I'll be placing Lazarus into bangers, and it's looking like it might be the only one this season. Zatsu Tabi, that's Journey, follows a rookie manga artist that's work is rejected every time she submits a new draft and goes on a journey to discover herself. As someone that perceives themselves as a creative, I can relate to aspiring to create something and not being good enough to succeed at it. Sometimes a breakthrough can come from our own personal experiences, which is the idea I believe Zatsu Tabi seeks to convey. I feel like it'll be average. Once Upon a Witch's Death seems to be on the opposite spectrum of Witch Watch, where this is much more focused on covering serious topics, which I tend to gravitate more towards. I expect something that's bittersweet as we see Meg grow as a person and connect with these people she's bringing joy to, all while we are reminded that she may be dead at the end of it. Let's say average. Up next is Can a Boy-Girl Friendship Hold Up, which is obviously some sort of romance which appears to be a love triangle. I've come to realize my anime list is horrible with applying the correct theme and genre tags, so I had to look at any list just to make sure my first impression is correct. Personally, I hate these types of romance due to the mediocre ones following the same exhausting formula. If more of them tried to emulate my teen romantic comedy snafu, maybe I'd have a more positive opinion of them. Can a Boy-Girl Friendship Survive had almost no interest in its source material, but generated so much interest for itself since it visually doesn't look half bad, and this is looking to be a dead season for anime. I'll be placing this in a bad. The unaware Atelier Meister is another kicked from the party trope, except this time the main character has white hair. Looks trash, will be trash, and I'm trash for watching it, in the bad tier. The beginning after the end is about the strongest king in history, Gray. Super strong, blah blah blah, wealth, power, oh my gosh, no one can stand by his side, then suddenly he meets his death and is reincarnated. You know, I'll give give it to spring. This is one of the most anticipated isekai of the season, and as it goes with this genre, you know we don't let old habits die. This is a reincarnation fantasy, so it's different, so you can't label it isekai. Whatever, I expect mediocrity. It reminds me of Reborn to Master the Blade. That's the same concept of an amazing king reincarnated, and then they undergo a change of mentality where they come to understand the value of others. I'm expecting the beginning after the end to be a bad show. The first season of Windbreaker was something I enjoyed despite my initial reservations around the delinquent theme, while wrapping it up with the introduction of the grade captains of Byakuren and setting the stage for Sakura to be the successor to Amemiya. The fighting was visually appealing with unique camera angles to enhance them. I do think there's a ceiling of Windbreaker due to the only cycle the plot can be in is Byakuren delinquents fight ex-delinquent group and eventually Sakura gets to the top spot, which will eventually get stale to me. For now, I expect this season of Windbreaker to be solid. Kowloon generic romance should be everything but a generic anime theoretically. Imagine the time and effort you've put into building your life in this cyberpunk city coming crashing down around you, not because of some tragedy, but instead as a consequence of having no memory of the person you once were. Would you value regaining the past or have faith in your future? I mean, I'm sold on giving this a watch, though a quick glance at its manga reviews creates cause for concern around the idea of the story not explaining things well. That kind of comes with the territory, especially since it seems to be a softcore sci-fi, which does feel like an excuse, but that's just the reality. Since I can't tell where Kowloon generic romance will land, I think something to prove is a good tier for this. The Gorilla God's go-to girl has nothing that stands out or makes me excited. With the main character's gorilla powers, I'm given nightmarish flashbacks to the Fruit of Evolution. The bad you go. When I first saw Shoshimin How to Become Ordinary was going to have a new season, I was pretty excited. The main character dynamic and how they played off one another's personalities made the first season a solid experience. I could empathize with this teenage delusion of longing to fit in with society. But as I thought about it longer, I don't know if Shoshimin needs or should have an additional season. It felt like the finale showed Kabuto and Osanai bittersweetly becoming ordinary. If I'd immediately placed the anime on the tier list, I would have dropped it in a solid, but now I needed to prove I'm wrong, which doesn't feel good to do with how much I enjoyed it. Maybe I have grown as an anime watcher in the past couple of years. We went almost the entire video for this season without me going on a tangent even once about isekai. There is like no isekai for me even to flame for spring. Teogonia is like the first one, and I'm just like, let's see what it has to offer. We got some demi-human, monster people dynamics that are going into these constant battles between the different races. And based on the synopsis, our main character isn't coming in immediately with their previous life's knowledge to upheave the world. Maybe we get a little something different here, so I'm dropping Teogonia in average. And once again, Mal did a terrible job with tags. With all that said, we finally got all the anime for spring 2025 placed on the tier list.